Number 50, eh? Number 50.
Wow.
Congratulations to us.
Congrats.
Yeah, number 50 of the Twiddlers Hangout. And, we thought, let's make this, let's make not too much fuss about it, but still make it kind of a special edition. So for this episode, we've invited the first three, or amongst the first people who joined Patreon on and who are on Discord, and also joined the masterclasses that we are doing with Stoor, and have a chat with them. See what happens. Welcome everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
So let me introduce everybody. Next to me on this side is Chaiya, joining us from Amsterdam today, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, sometimes you're in Germany, sometimes you're in Amsterdam, but tonight you're in Amsterdam. Good to see you. Long time no see.
Yes, you do.
Actually, Chaiya joined one of the masterclasses yesterday, so we've been speaking yesterday, talking about his music, getting some stuff done. So yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. It was a good session.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll just go straight in because when you joined, you were basically working inside the box, right?
Yes.
Just using Ableton, and you showed up yesterday showing off your new acquired DFAM.
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
Tell me about it.
Basically, I was always working inside the box, but now with a DFAM, it's really good to kind of expand the sound and also allow for more like experimental sounds and being more in the moment, and also for happy accidents in a sense. You come up to new sounds, and in the end, it really broadens your horizon. You come up with things that you never thought possible,
So are you feeling you're getting your head around it at the moment, or are you still early stages, kind of exploring?
Basically. Oh wait, I got it ready. So
of course you do.
Of course, the new points is always right inside. I just really got it just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just wrapping my head around all the modular fun stuff. It feels like a good beginner modular system, just because it's kind of like this, like semi way of using the patches, and you can play around with it. And also, it doesn't fall into like a category of like a specific synthesizer, so you're not like limited in your mind of producing one type of sound or like thing. It's a kind of this freak instrument, so you can experiment a lot, and I think that's the beauty of it, especially coming completely fresh and no background in modular. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a good first one. It's sort of self-contained. You can use it as is, but still go to crazy territory when you start patching and experimenting. So
absolutely,
good choice. We'll get back to the DFAM for sure. But let me first introduce the other guests. We have Dobry, raum.null. Today, you have different projects, but today you're raum.null, and you have an invisible crew somewhere in the room in the background. Now it's visible. Welcome other crew as well.
Thank you.
And Dobry is joining us from Belgrade. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Yeah,
absolutely.
raum.null is my, let's say, longest running active project. That I started back in 2012 with my friend Chris Brookmeyer from Austria. So we've been making we called it noise techno back in the day. Lately I'm active in other projects, but we are going to revisit raum.null this summer. So yeah,
cool.
That's the short explanation.
Yeah, I've been hearing snippets over the last few months of what you're working on, and it sounds very promising. We'll get back to this and your other projects as well. But let me first introduce Ranjit from Melbourne. Good day, mate.
All this time we've been doing this, you haven't done a single one of those yet.
I had to at some point, right?
Yeah, true.
How's Melbourne?
Good, pretty good. Starting to get cold now and dark, and suddenly the time switched to it's 2 hours earlier than the last session I got up for, so it's really, really early in the morning right now.
Yeah, what time is it on your side now?
It's just turned 4 o'clock.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry.
I misread my emails. I thought my class was yesterday, and so I got up at 3 a.m. for no reason.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, anyway, you had an early morning, hopefully productive day.
Yeah,
with the extra hours. Yeah. So good to see you too, man. And you're in your studio right now because I can make out a wall of records behind you.
Yeah, that's right.
So what is your main thing you do there? Because is it like a place where you practice DJing, or is it mainly your?
It's mostly production. I guess all the free time I get these days, or time for music these days, I tend to put towards making music as opposed to playing DJing. But I still definitely do it in here if I go to record podcasts or practice for a gig or something like that.
Cool. So, because you've been around for quite a while, right? You've been DJing for years.
Yeah, I first started learning how to in 2003 and started playing out in 2004. So it's been a while now.
Cool.
Yeah.
And do you play with vinyl, or do you?
No,
mix it
I
up?
haven't. I mostly use a control. I use a controller and Tractor for the last 6 or 7 years. And so before that, it was mostly CDs, and before that it was was records for about 4 or 5 years, and then a mix of the two, records and CDs, and then slowly stopped buying records when I realized how much cheaper digital music was. Yeah.
Okay, so Tractor and controllers, and the vinyl is just a collection.
Pretty, yeah.
collector's thing.
I can't bring myself to get rid of it, but I don't really use it anymore. No.
Okay. Well, it's a good soundproofing object in your studio.
That's true. I know, it's my very expensive diffuser wall.
And with a lot of nostalgia to it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. That's nice. Also let me say hi to everybody who is watching us on Twitch, and I see a lot of familiar names popping up. So hello to everybody there, and as usual, if you have any questions and you want to engage in the conversation, don't be shy, drop us a comment, and Sander in the background will bring it in or ignore it, we'll see. Anyway, I mean, it's good to have you on this side of the Twiddlers Hangout. Usually it's a hidden thing, it's a private thing, but I'll explain to everybody what's the way we do it. Usually we book like an evening, evening for me at least, morning for Ranjit, and we do like 3, sometimes 4 classes in a row, and everybody who is joined the class basically pays for 1 hour, but can stay in the background for the entire day, or the entire night, so they can listen in on the other people's class and discussions. And what we usually do is, everybody sends me some stuff in advance, like some new tracks they've been working on. Can either be a WAV file or a bunch of music or some SoundCloud link or whatever, or even Ableton arrangements. And then, we go in and discuss it and just figure out what is needed to take it to the next level, or we'll just it's a very sort of there's no real curriculum. It's just basically right. I mean, we just talk about whatever comes up and whatever you send ahead, and that's what we what we take on and use in the hour. So, and it's cool to have seen all the progressions you've made until now.
Yeah.
So how did you all of you find this? That's something I'm interested in. So Chaiya, when did you stumble upon this thing?
Yeah, so it was actually a pure coincidence because like I was always wanted to take my production a little bit more seriously. I've been dabbling around for years. But there was a moment when I thought, okay, I want to take it more serious now. So I watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials on YouTube and everywhere I could find them, trying to improve my stuff. And one night I was just very late working on, I think it was my MBA thesis back then. And at 4 a.m. you posted that you wanted to set up this master class, and I don't know, it was just a match.
4 a.m.
Yeah, something. I think you just.
What was I thinking?
Just returning back from your Berlin session or something like that. So I think Sandra told me you posted it in the car or so. So I just jumped right onto the chance, just because since I came to the Netherlands and got introduced to your music, it just expanded my ears and eyes for how techno could really sound like. I was trying to go to every festival, but now having the chance to just jump on and learn from the source was just great. So I just signed up, and since then I'm around and trying to improve my stuff with your feedback.
Awesome. So you always send me arrangements which are very, very tidy and very beautifully laid out. That's true for Ranjit as well, by the way. And it's funny to see that most people that I work with and also myself, we are supposed to be the people who do this for a living, but I'm way more messy with my stuff. It's I basically, what I do is I record everything in real time. So I have use Ableton as a multi-track, and usually it's hours and hours of music, like a massive timeline. And then when I select the part that I want to work on, I basically just make a selection and finish it there. And I don't even bother to top and tail it. It's just everything else is still there. I keep it there just in case I need to kind of borrow something from a different point in time from the session. So I just keep it there. But it looks awfully messy, and I don't categorize things like you guys do, like a bass channel and even color coding. I mean, you guys use color coding and markers and shit like that. So I can actually learn something from you, but it's I'm way too messy for that. So is that something you maybe Ranjit? Is that just been part of your workflow since the beginning, or does it give you sort of more overview of what you are doing, or is it just a procrastinating kind of thing?
No. I guess I set my all the color coding and all the channels and everything. I've got a template that I use for that, so it's all set up, ready to go. So I was talking to a friend of mine who makes techno, but he's sort of come from a bit of a jazz background, and he's like, I hate templates, and just be in the moment, just don't have any preset things. And so I thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. But then I found myself just setting up the same things over and over again, and I thought, well, this is getting in the way of creativity because I have to sit there and set up the sends and put things in a particular way. What channels that are, I can't remember. So I found the template just saves me so much time, and I can just sort of jump straight into making music, and there's sort of no barriers to having to think about where things are or anything like that.
Okay, so it's not actually you tidying up the arrangement afterwards. It's actually already a template before you start.
Yeah, everything. Because I just found myself, I just tried starting from scratch a few times, and I keep just putting the same things in because I'm always going to have a kick drum, I'm always going to have a bass thing, I'm always going to have hi-hats. Mm-hmm. So if they're all there set up how I'm probably going to use them, then it's so it saves a lot of time.
That's interesting. Usually you send me whatever we work on is bounced audio stems, right? So it's without any of the stuff that you had in the channels when you were working on it. But so how does what does your template look like? Do you have actual chains of instruments and effects there or is it just the layout of your arrangement?
It's the layout, but on each channel I'll have at least an EQ, a compressor, a spectrum analyzer, and a utility plugin, because I would end up putting those things on each channel. And then from there I'll sort of, as each session or each thing I'm working on, then I'll start importing different things into the inserts. But then I set up a thing of sends, a bunch of send channels, return channels on this template about a year ago, and so I found they're the things that I kept liking to use. It's like 3 distortions, 3 saturations, some reverbs. And so I've tried playing around with them recently and getting new ones in, but just didn't quite like the way it sounded. So I've sort of been sticking with those. So I've got them set up as well.
I saw a comment from 1,000 Details that color coding is plus OCD is freedom to do music. Well, I guess so. You know,
I agree fully.
As for I'm very anal in OCD. I think I wouldn't be able to handle just having stuff everywhere.
Yeah, I mean it's funny how many different ways there are to approach this, but I do have one thing that I have in my sort of standard layout, and that's the clock. That's all it is, you know. So like clock, pulse, and an assigned output, and everything else is blank basically. So and then it gets very messy very quickly, and I like it like that, you know. Yeah, maybe the people who are watching, they have. I'm just curious how they work. You know, whether they're template based or just freestyle. You know, maybe people can let us know. Dobry, on the other hand, is a actual hardware warrior, right?
Yes. Actually, I have to say, my friend Chris, I owe a lot to Chris for turning me on to hardware, because Chris is an old school musician, a drummer from the 90s. He played with his brother and his
a real
friends.
Musician.
A real, a real drummer. He has a built-in sequencer. Yeah. So he used to play in industrial noise rock band in Austria, and when we started working, I was completely in the box, and he started suggesting that we should get some hardware and work with it. So first we started buying guitar pedals, of course, and then slowly advanced to synths, and now we basically have a small collection of modular synths and regular synths.
Yeah. You're on not. You can't just say synths on this chat, Dobry. You know that. what is it you have there?
No, it's really nothing special. Mostly I use, of course, the Roland's boutique series like TB03, TR09. In my other band, the Girls Next Gulag, Vlada is a virtuoso on SH01. He's like
awesome. The real one,
like a Balkan Matthew Johnson, you know, Matthew Johnson from the Balkans. He's really good. So we use we mainly use boutiques, and in the modular synth division, Chris and I wanted to slowly build some sort of a drum machine, let's say. So we have like a few modules that, let's say, Mani Siteritas, Basimilus Siteritas, Mutant Snare, stuff like that, a bunch of filters, some envelope generators, and yeah, that's basically what we use. And of course, 2 years ago, actually, the other friend and I bought Electron Octatrack, of course. So
nice.
Now it's totally incorporated in the setup, and I use Midas Venice 16-channel mixing desk, analog mixing desk in studio, and of course I use Ableton for multi-tracking, and then later some arranging and editing and mixing, of course. Yeah.
Cool. So this and sort of this modular drum machine thing. How do you sequence it? What is it, using the Octatrack or?
Actually, I used to sequence it using BeatStep Pro.
Okay.
But then I spilled some Chinese takeaway food all over it. So the pads stopped responding in a good way. And of course I cleaned it and traded it to a friend for some other equipment. I mean, I warned him about the issues, and he was okay with it. Yeah, and now I use the CV out on TB03 and the trigger out on TR09. Sometimes one, sometimes the other to sequence it. So some very let's say basic sequencing it's just triggering for that modular synth. Yeah,
Right.
for those modules.
Okay. That's cool. I mean, I've got a similar rack here with also with the noise engineering things and all the hex inverter things. Yeah,
No.
is Chris the guy in the back? No, okay.
No. Chris is back in Linz, Austria. I haven't seen him for like almost 2 years now. He should have joined me here in the studio because we have at least 1 or 2 sessions a year here in Belgrade, but the whole lockdown crap started, so we haven't seen each other in a while. But the plan is now, as soon as the, let's say, borders open and stuff sort of normalizes, that I should go to Linz and we should record some music this summer, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you have this hardware setup, and I assume you program everything live and then just tweak things. Do you record through the Venice and into Ableton? So, but you use the Venice for tracking as well? Yeah. Okay.
I use direct outs and group outs. So I record everything a 16-channel multi-track using an old Firewire sound card with ADAT expansion, and it works well. I have some compressors, some old analog compressors, some like budget stuff, nothing fancy. I have some old analog compressors inserted to groups on Midas, so I can choose what I get to record directly, what I get to record through the groups. So I use it for parallel compression, and that's it basically. Yeah.
Awesome. And so then it's inside the computer. Do you tend to shape the sound, like to the desired sort of outcome on the way in, or are you basically just tracking and do all the manipulation afterwards?
Well, let's say for the past few months, since I have joined the master classes, we started because I mainly record with other people for different projects. I tend to use the processing in the computer less and less. So, and it's really satisfying to work a bit harder and longer in getting the right sound while recording or before pressing record than spending months tweaking that sound in the computer. So basically that was actually, I didn't know that because I thought it had to be done that way, but now I can see that it was a huge source of frustration. Basically recording something that wasn't precise enough, that was just some sort of crochet drawing,
like a sketch,
like sketch, and then like trying to make it sound great. And now that I've started practicing the fine skill of precision mixing, like spending 1, 2, or 3 hours even setting up the session, then we started getting recordings that are really almost done. Like, so it only goes to basically to mixing those tracks in the computer later.
Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of people, and I've listened to so many people describing their process, and what is clear to me, also from my own experience, of course, but anything you do outside of the box it's just way quicker, for some reason, because you have less choices and less stuff to work with. Yeah, you have to make a decision at some point. So you tend to go to, to push things into the ballpark way quicker, and then the final adjustments, of course, inside the computer can be done there, you know, and it is way more powerful, but also more time consuming.
Yeah.
I find myself, and yeah, it's good to see that you found out that it saves you time doing it this way.
No, really, I'm another person now.
That's a big statement.
Yeah, really, it's like you put all that frustration aside, and you're like, okay, let's first mix the best recordings, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not even touching those old ones.
Yeah, it's just to save
are
yourself a
helpless.
headache. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ranjit, you have some hardware as well, right?
Just a little bit. I've got a Dave Smith Prophet Rev 2, the 16 voice one. That's about
fancy.
it. Yeah, no, it is. It's a friend of mine bought one and realised he wasn't using it after a few months and offered to sell it to me for a really nice price. I thought, wow, it's like basically brand new. It still had the sticker on the screen. So I thought I'd snap that up because I'd been going around in a circle of trying to get out of the box and trying to find how I wanted to get out of the box, what I wanted to sort of buy, and this came along, and the price and the newness was enough to get me on board finally. But it's
Nice.
still, and since then I've still been stuck in a bit of a loop of like, oh, do I want to? What do I want to? What things do I want to get out of the box? And then spending hours googling, and then just going back to using all my plugins on the computer.
So have you actually been using the DSI a lot? Has it been useful for you?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff do you tend to get out of it?
I don't know. I guess it's often just like a starting point for me with sound design. I just like the sort of the hands-on nature of it as opposed to clicking with the mouse, then running it through processing in Ableton. And often I'll end up sampling it. More often than not, I'll end up sampling something that comes out of it and sort of then using that as a starting point, maybe in a sampler.
Okay, so how does that work? Do you send some MIDI to it, or you play it by hand and then record like a few hours of stuff? Or
Yeah.
are you really hunting for a deliberate, you know, like a thing you have in your head, like you try to sculpt something with an idea or something, or are you just freestyling and then find the nice bits?
Yeah, this is often what I'll use if I'm sort of don't have an idea as such. There's a couple of soft synths that I use if I have something in my head that I sort of feel, I don't know, more comfortable. I just feel comfortable with. I feel like I can get ideas out better with those. Whereas this is more if I'm just sort of want to try and come up with something new that I haven't thought of. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not always your starting point. So you use it whenever you feel like using it. It's not always your sort of place of departure, the synth.
No, definitely not. I have to sort of sometimes remind myself to use it because I'll be sitting there and a few hours into clicking with a mouse and being like, oh yeah, well, I'm making music here, not programming.
Right, and then once you get your stuff going in the box, then how do you usually follow up? Is it do you work from a loop, or are you doing stuff on a timeline straight away? What is usually your approach? Because your arrangements always look very tidy, like I said before, and there's always like a sort of like a crescendo somewhere in your track, so there's a very clear sense of development in whatever you're doing. So how do you get there? How do you get that to that point?
I did definitely start with the loop and just sort of keep fleshing that out until I feel like I've got enough things to have development and a journey and a progression. I've found that's something that I used to find really challenging, knowing when that point was to go from the loop to the arrangement. And I've found there's a big area in which you could go too soon or too late, and both ones usually resulted in a bad experience or ending with a track that ends up getting ditched. But yeah, no, I guess my attitude these days is I'd rather have too many things and need to take some parts out as opposed to go too early and suddenly realize, okay, there's maybe not enough here to maintain interest throughout the track. Yeah, so I definitely start with a loop and then sort of start feeling my way through the arrangement after that, and maybe go back and fine tune it if I feel like bits of it aren't working or it's sort of not making sense.
Cool. Yeah, I think arrangement is one of these things that a lot of people have trouble with. You know, most people that I speak to who are on the classes, they generally it's the most common thing is either people cannot finish a track because they like the aspect of jamming and starting something. And then just get bored with it and never know how to finish it, or they have trouble arranging things. Those are the two main things. And for some reason, you always have a perfectly tailored arrangement. You always deliver.
But it's funny because I still think, or I then look at my things and think, oh, it's too. I don't know. It's too. Like, I want it to be a bit more like a bit less like that, I guess. Because I think that's sort of one downside of working in the box is that it's, I don't know, I don't know if it's maybe psychological because I can see all those points and see all the things where things start and finish and it all looks too neat and not organic enough. But then I don't know if it's just me because I know, if I was just listening to the same song without seeing all the visual representation, maybe it would be different.
Have you tried turning off your monitor?
Yeah, I know. I think I might need to do that a bit more.
It's not a bad idea just to listen, or turn around, like look the other way, and then just listen. That's all you can do when you use hardware. You can see the lights going, and that is progressing. But you at some point you forgot where you are, whether it's bar 64 or or 75. You know what I mean? It just disappears. And if you see something in on a screen, you always know where you are, and that kind of can sometimes be very suggestive, if you know what I mean. Like, so you're like, oh, I'm already there. Maybe I should start the break. And if you just listen, you might not even get that thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you get distracted by looking at the screen, Chaiya?
Yeah, it's a little bit of the chat is really interesting to follow as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, exactly. Like these interesting questions coming up.
Okay, well, yeah, you can pick one. Pick one. Which one? Is there anything you wanted to respond to in particular?
What's up with the DFAM? Read DFAM and something pops up in my mind.
Yeah. Why not? Let's go DFAM. Let's go DFAM.
No, but honestly, the DFAM is just the new edition. But before talking about being in the box, maybe it's how I grew up. Like maybe it's a generation thing. But like growing up, being a gamer or whatever, like being in the box and playing around on the computer is something that feels almost natural to me, like super contrary to the artist's life, put it this way. But just like clicking with mouse and with a keyboard is okay. It's not the best. It's not the worst thing. And just maybe also because I couldn't, settle on getting like investing all my money into one synth or one drum machine. I felt like the DAW was kind of the Swiss Army knife of making music. So I just stuck to it and tried to just like be very good with that Swiss Army knife. And once you just watched a bunch of YouTube tutorials or whatever, and you save some instruments or some creations of your own, or some audio racks, some effects racks, I usually keep them saved. So I know kind of like it's a pseudo instrument for me then, a digital one. And from there, I just like link a bunch of macros and then just play around as if it was a modular system as well, or like a live instrument as well. I don't have a MIDI, so again, it's still with the keyboard and the mouse. And I just got the APC40 as a controller, so I might incorporate that as well.
More hardware.
More hardware. It's like semi-hardware. But in the end, it's kind of, you don't want to like settle on one machine. Now I got the DFAM, but like before that, it was just trying to be as versatile as possible.
Yeah, it's true that if you describe the computer as a Swiss Army knife, and in a way it is, and it's probably way more than a Swiss Army knife. It's like limitless, and as much as that's amazing, it's also it can be distracting or it can be confusing. You know what I mean? Like I was, funny example. I was watching. I don't know what band. I think it was Alphaville. You know, you remember Alphaville? You're not from the '80s, but
Yeah.
they were explaining their studio process, and they were one of the first bands to use the LM1, the Lindrum, and it had 16 samples or something like that, 16 sounds, and every sound was on a chip. So if you wanted to change for example, the kick drum. You had to open up the machine, unscrew it, and then peel out the chip which had the bass drum, and then click in the new one, close the machine again, and that was took an hour or so, and hopefully not any burn marks or destroyed stuff, but it just it shows you how far that has developed, from early electronic instruments and amazing, incredible limitations that were on them, and to today where you have a computer which can pretty much do anything. There's nothing really you can't do with a computer. It's crazy, and it's there is something to say for limitation. So I always say, if my studio would burn down, what's the first thing I would get back? It would be a computer, of course, because it enables you to do pretty much everything. But at the same time, I like working with stuff that has limitations, so it focuses you, to work harder and to really sort of explore everything that's possible within the limits, and sometimes that's giving you a bit of a head start.
Yeah, but it maybe in the end, when you work then on a computer, it's about a little bit about discipline and setting yourself those limits, that you stay in the bounds that you define yourself. Because
you can make rules, of course. So, did you do that? Do you have any custom rules? Anything you set up for yourself so you don't get lost in all the possibilities?
Yeah, so I have like these set of instrument presets that I created, and I just try to stick to those and change them a little bit, but I don't start from scratch every time, except for some sessions when I feel like really creating something new. But usually I have something that I created already and try to stick to that, which also in the end contributes to having a specific sound. Almost like a synth that you have in your room, and also just, for instance, with these master classes, having a deadline really helps, because then you are really limited by there's not much time left. You just gotta commit, and I think this commitment, and like I used to have a lot of these commitment issues when it comes to music, and you end up tweaking forever. But sometimes you feel like a student, and like you say, damn, the homework is due tomorrow, so let's quickly do it, and then just send it in to Professor Speedy, and then see what comes out.
Yeah, well, in a way, it works the same for people who are doing this for a living, because they have the deadline as well. I mean, there's always like a deadline for a remix or even a release. You set yourself, you pick a date. Okay, that's around the time I want to release this. So if you work backwards, then what date you should have finished it, and it definitely helps you to get on with it, because if you don't have deadlines, you can in theory tweak things forever. It's true. Yeah. And it's not always good to keep working on something, because at least I notice my own stuff, the stuff that I spent a lot of time on, it's probably 99% of it would have been the same, and I've only, that last bit, that last percent is something I only hear and nobody else. You know what I mean? It's like, no, let's do this little sound a little bit less, to the left, and maybe remove this and this frequency from it. But in the end, it doesn't really make a difference. It's just getting obsessed with details, and just pushing the finish line ahead. For no reason. So let's talk about the process of your other band, Dobry.
Yep.
Because this was an interesting thing for me on the masterclass, because when you came on, you were when you joined, you were working on a project, an album project, and in the beginning you had like 16 tracks or 16 recorded, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were all live recordings, and some were like fucking 20 minutes, and they were really
Most
spun
of them,
out.
yes.
And I was lucky to, it was really interesting for me from my perspective too, to be so closely involved with the birth of an album or an album project. And I saw, how you sort of reduced everything down and focused everything, and finally compiled the final album out of it, which has only 6 tracks or 7.
6 tracks, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's 52 minutes long.
Yeah. I mean, they're long. I mean, the sound, for people who don't know your music, I would definitely encourage to check everyone's music out here. And Sander will put links in the chat later on. But would definitely also encourage people to check out the Girls Next Gulag album. It's like you said, your mate is the Matthew Johnson of the Balkan, but I would describe this album as almost like a Massive Attack of the Balkan. It's a very deep, drony, fucking crazy, spacious sounds, and it's really, really special, and a lot of human feel to it as well. Very spiritual in a way too. It's very, very special, to be honest. So yeah, get me through the process, because you had like these recordings, and then what? So you were kind of undecided about a lot of things. What did you do next?
Well, this project was in making for, let's say, well, now it's almost, I think, 5 years. We started back in 2016, Vlada and I. It was a duo in the beginning, and we didn't have this great name back in the day. We started working, and we basically combined jam session with just making line after line and recording it into Ableton, and then arranging it. And slowly we moved towards exclusively recording jam sessions. That was, and now in the past, let's say, year and a half, it's the exclusive way of making new material, like building new material. And in the end, we when I joined the masterclass in October, we have recorded something like 12 tracks in a year. We had a friend that is a composer. He joined, and he was mainly on vocals and making some drones. So we recorded with him in the last year. Then we added the bass player and the percussionist. But basically those jam sessions were Vlada and myself and Draško sometimes. And then when I started working with you in the masterclass, we started cutting those tracks down, like making folders, making different lists of tracks, like in what stage they were. I spent not too much time organizing the material like that and choosing the tracks. So basically out of those 16 tracks came out those 6 tracks. And I mean, lots of good stuff was left out, but the great joy is that we now had 6 tracks that were really compact and really working together well.
Yeah, and it's digestible, because I remember we talked about this a lot, because it's always hard to say bye to your babies, right?
Yeah.
But it's I think the length of the album now is it makes you want to listen again. And if you would have 2 hours of that sound, it's hard to digest. It's a lot. And it's better to leave people confused and wanting more than to have them quit halfway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what I'm interested in, you mentioned working with the other musicians, with the other band members.
Yeah.
Since you record everything live, do you actually put people in different positions in the studio and do everything live, or are there other some musicians recorded in overdubs and stuff? How do you do that? How do you manage that?
For the first album, for the one that is out, that you can check on the internet, it's we're overdubbed. Like for example, I sent the some rough mixes of the tracks to my bass player, to a friend, and he played some bass lines, and then I would put them together in Ableton. So for this first album. But since January, we started making sessions with all the band members. I mean, we meet once a week. All of us have day jobs, so not everyone is able to come to the session. So basically, sometimes it's just two of us, sometimes it's five of us in the studio, and then we do those recordings. And I have to admit, I still didn't figure out a way to make it easier for me to go through the recorded material later, because when it's so many people in the studio, we tend to make recordings that are 25, 30, 35 minutes long, you know, so it gets quite difficult, especially with the percussion and bass, especially with the percussion, because it needs to be edited, it needs to be put on grid. Sometimes very strictly, sometimes we get a loose rhythm, but it has to be checked, you know, so it's still a problem how to decide which parts are good and not spend like days editing 30 minutes of percussion recording, you know. Yeah.
So is that something you do together with a percussionist, or?
No, actually I do it myself. I still didn't devise, let's say, a safe way to let other people, you know, do that kind of hard work. But my band members are really nice people, so they are.
And they're okay with the changes you make.
Yeah, they're completely okay with that, and also they offer me all the time to do some of that physical work, you know, like editing their recordings and stuff like that. So I think for the next release. It's actually what I wanted to say. It makes a difference, you know, in making a sound. We get completely different tracks from those on the first album, because, for example, the bass player is quite inventive while playing in jam sessions, because he's a quite experienced and classically trained bass player, and so he has some great ideas, and he feels comfortable in those jam session moments. So it's weird, it's strange, you know. Vlada is a programmer. I had some elementary education, like I played violin when I was a kid, but it's where it ended, you know. I don't work with music theory. On the other hand, Draško, the vocalist, he's a composer, and he teaches composition in Belgrade, you know, Faculty of Music Arts. So it's totally different. So it was quite interesting to see all those people with different backgrounds working together and bringing something else into the jam sessions.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I mean, it's cool that, you know, when you put people together, something happens, you know. It's so different than sitting there by yourself, making your decisions. You know, the feedback between the interaction between the musicians is always very special. That's why I like collaborating and doing things together with other people a lot, you know. There's always this I always describe it to other people by saying, you know, if you have one person and you have another person that both have their identity, but if you play together, you create a third identity, you know. It's like not the one, not the other, but it's something that only exists between those two people or three people, you know. You have that in bands as well, you know. So it's a really, I think it's a really interesting way to work with music, you know, to just feeding ideas with other people, and in every session you learn something new from whoever's involved.
And you can never foresee what will happen. You can never like plan what will come out. So it's like it's, you know, whatever we try to plan, it ends up being boring compared to something that just happens during the session. So one of the things that that we developed together is that we now started showing up at sessions without any preparation. Like we just fire up machines, and then each one of us has a different dynamic. but we let each other of us set up, and some people are ready like in 3 minutes, some of us need an hour, but when we sync up after an hour and a half, then we hit recording, and most of the time the magic happens.
So with syncing up, you don't need you're not talking about clock, right? You're talking about,
about
getting sort of
yes.
feeling that everything gels together, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you're saying. Yeah,
like connecting.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So you don't have a plan, and so you also don't even say what tempo you don't decide on a tempo or a key, or
we decide in that first hour, like when we were talking, like in the beginning, we say, it's always like, I ask around, does anybody has an idea which tempo should it be, and now it already started to be like a joke, sometimes we play on 130 BPM, but much more often we play like 60 or 65 BPM, so it's incredibly slow, and you get really limited possibilities out of the sequencers on different hardware because you're playing it so slow. So you can't make any like 16th notes or anything faster. It's all like in eighths, for example. So it really like limits us, and somehow, of course, because it's always the same people, we always respond similarly to the beat.
Predict says double. You can. It's true for any tempo, right? You can always go double or half.
But actually, what we do much more often is that we cut the tempo. If we start with something that has, like 3 digits, like 100 BPM or plus, most of time, like after 45 minutes or something, someone would be like, I have a great idea. Yeah, what? Let's cut the tempo in half. So we try really to keep it simple and stupid, like in those decisions, and just make something that is not like an intellectual approach to making music, or mathematical approach. We just, try to catch that wave or to
intuition,
find the flow.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, the most important thing, if there are more than 2 people, if you have a band of 3 or 4 or even more, the trick is to do just enough to contribute something and do little enough to leave space for other people. Not doing anything is as meaningful as doing something.
Yes, actually, that is one of the most important things, like getting explaining to yourself that when you're thinking about touching a knob, then it's already definitely a moment that you shouldn't touch that knob. If you're thinking about it, don't do it. If you just do it, okay, it's cool. But if you're thinking about it, no. Just leave it like it is. It's not boring. Trust yourself. It's not boring.
That's great.
Have you guys ever done any collaboration, Ranjit or Chaiya?
Yeah, no, I've done a little bit. Not heaps though. Where I live in Melbourne, sort of live a bit far away from the city, so a lot of people. It's a bit of a hike to sort of get to people. But with all this and doing stuff online, I've actually done a few sessions online with people.
How did that work technically?
A friend of mine said he'd been doing it pre-COVID, just sort of they'd use Zoom to sort of sit and one person sort of controls Ableton. They just sort of communicate their ideas and work in that way. I tried it, and my friend and I were both shocked at how well it went, and we sort of came out with a pretty good idea. We put together a nice idea and not that long, and
So what do you mean? So you're on some video chat or something, and the one person is just talking to the person who's controlling.
Yeah, so sharing the audio on the screen so we can see and hear what's going on.
Okay.
And but like if you were sitting in the studio together, one person's usually going to be the one controlling the computer. So it wasn't that different. Just kind of you forget that you're not in the same room. You're just like sitting in the same room and just going back and forth and shaping ideas together.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I've never tried that.
It was surprisingly good. I was a bit skeptical, but it really worked. But I have to say, listening to Dobry just then about having other people to contribute ideas. Just listening to that, it sounded so amazing, where it's not all the onus is on me to come up with every single decision that gets made. It'd be really nice to have more people offering, sort of making decisions, I guess, because making all the decisions yourself gets a bit stressful and overwhelming, I think, at times, or easy to get caught up in loops of self-doubt and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the process can sort of goes exponentially faster the more brains you add to a project, you know. It's there's twice the thinking, or twice the brain power if you have and in a band it's even more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've tried to you know, of course, obviously the remote jam thing that we do, and it's the opposite of how you do it, you know, because you don't see each other, you're just going blind. I mean, for some people, for some of the jams, we had this FaceTime thing, muted FaceTime video feed open. Because if you unmute it, you get the audio from the other room, which is delayed again in a very weird way. So you know, it's better just to wave to the other side sometimes. You know, say, "Hey, I'm still here." But basically, the music is the only thing to go by, and it's you have nothing then other than your intuition to go by. You know, so you're just responding to what you hear. But I've never tried your way of actually having a conversation and then just controlling. The computer on one side, and then the other person is just there to contribute ideas. I never tried that. I mean, maybe I should try that once, because I've done so many projects in the past where I started a collaboration with somebody in real time, in real life, in person, in a studio, and then, you know, left off after 1 or 2 days with lots of sort of half done ideas, you know, or half sort of, you know, unfinished stuff basically. And then the process after that is just so fucking dragging and long, you know. Like, I did a new version. I changed the EQ on the snare, you know. Download. Okay, wait, and then listen to it. And if I don't need the difference, let's just check the other one. Number 65. Yeah. There's a difference, and that just goes on for weeks and months. You know, it's crazy, and it's just so demotivating. So I'd rather you know, just, you know, get it done, you know, when there and then, if you know what I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So what about you, Chaiya? Have you ever worked with other people, or are you solo?
I am pretty much solo, because, as I said, I'm just like kind of starting to take this super serious. Also, the fact that when starting this class, I was pretty shy with my production or whatever music I'm doing. I think like not many people in my environment even know that I'm like into this. Maybe some people are watching now, since this is the first time I shared this. But yeah, throughout the classes also, I feel like it gives you a little bit of confidence to just stand to your production and just like put it out there. And I think that's already one of the huge advantages of being here. Apart from that, though, now with COVID times, it's kind of a little bit hard to collaborate with people. And as you said, through to Splice or any other means to just collaborate, it can be very time consuming. And I feel like it's, someone said it in the chat as well, it's kind of like killing the inspiration if you have to like go back and forth. And I think like the magic of the moment is kind of missing.
Yeah, it becomes a job too much. Yeah. So tell me what, because we didn't really get into how you got into music and what your plan is and what's your experience. So how did you start? When did you start? How did you start?
Oh, like really electronic music, I guess. In high school, started to play a little bit here and there, but it was just like very housey and things not related to techno. But since then, I moved to Amsterdam, and then 8 years ago, I got more into the dance scene, the festivals and the raves, and then I got introduced to your music, and that's where it hit the spot with like, okay, techno can be so minimalistic, but yet so powerful and so colorful in sound as well, which was completely new to me, because maybe it's a thing to think the more is better, and the more things and elements in the track, the more interesting it will get. But just having it stripped down and having only like the raw sounds, this is what really appealed to me. So that's how I got really into like the production part.
Where did you first experience that? Because I assume that must have been on a festival or in a club, right? Because
Yes.
stripped down music. I mean, the reason why stripped down music sounds great in a club is because it leaves more space for other sounds. It's like if there's just a wall of sound, it's very tiring and very there's a lot of pressure on people's ears. You can't talk and you can't sort of make your own story in your head and blah blah blah. But if you hear those tracks that are made to be played in such blown up proportions, if you play them on your earpods or something, usually they tend to be underwhelming, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
So I assume you got acquainted with that sort of stripped down sound somewhere in the field, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Because like you can't get that at home. Just even like having sets from any festival, from any for any club is just not the same. And I guess it really also applies to your sound because the stuff you play really works on big speakers and proper room. And whenever I try to convince somebody to listen to Speedy J, it just doesn't sound the same. So then a bunch of friends of mine that kind of got me into the music have like a WhatsApp group, and we call it the Church of Speedy J.
Really?
Yeah. just because the fact that also if you try to convert somebody to the Church of Speedy J, it's a kind of a job, because you have to have faith in that the music in real is as good, like it is better than the stuff you hear
Right.
in your headphones or on
That's
YouTube
funny.
or whatever. So
Oh wow. I didn't know I was involved in some kind of a religious cult.
yeah, shout out to my friends in Switzerland.
All the faith aside, I think you should consider growing a beard.
Yeah.
I wish it worked.
Yeah. So I'm flattered, man. But what I'm curious about then, though, is that if you set out to make music that has the same kind of or has that kind of vibe to it, that can be played on massive sound systems. How do you deal with that when you are in your making process, in your production process? Because you basically all you have is you can only guess how it's going to sound when it's played on the medium that you're actually producing it for. So how do you deal with that?
Absolutely. So in the end, this is the part that I still have to learn. And I think in our session, it becomes apparent sometimes that my kick is too loud or my bass is too loud, because all I have is my monitoring headphones and like small speakers. It doesn't compare. So it maybe also involves a little bit of trust and imagination that a kick that sounds here a little bit underwhelming will on bigger speaker be more pleasant and less overwhelming, because but in the end also I have to think about if I want to share my productions to let's say non-audiophiles that are used to like booming speakers in their like booming bass in their headphones or the stuff they get from SoundCloud or Spotify or whatever. Should I kind of find a balance to adapt it to be like to kind of match the loudness raise, or should I try to make it more appealing for bigger speakers? So I think like that balance is sometimes tricky for me as well to still get right.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle that will remain. No matter how advanced you get in production, if you get to the final format, there's always a choice to sort of tailor your sound more to online playback or whatever listening devices are out there, or even big PA systems. There's it's hard to get it translate the same on all of these different platforms. But for stuff that is done for usually for online playback for Spotify and stuff like that, it's way over the top. It's way too much for big systems, Oh, where is the Speedy J Church? Yeah, is there an actual physical one?
You should set one up, definitely.
I would say if you want to join the cult, just come to our Discord server. That's where all the
Oh, yeah, that's true.
that's where all the
That's
nerds hang out. So if there's anything I would recommend you join, then it will be that. So
About the big speakers, one thing that I forgot to say. I have this little gadget. I think some people might know it. It's called the Sub Pack.
Do you have one? Really?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, cool.
It's not here now, but it's quite fun actually, and it kind of simulates the feeling of having like standing in front of a big PA system. If you close your eyes, and now with COVID, you can just pretend you're on a festival, or like put on some rave on big screen TV and put on the Sub Pack and let's go. But so sometimes I use that to reference or to check out the track.
Yeah, I like the gadget. I've tried it once and I found that it's still, my brain still doesn't really sort of gel the two sources. So with the Sub Pack, I still feel that it's a different thing going on. It doesn't really sort of fuse together with the music too much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Have you reached that point where you get used to it and it all sounds like like one thing, like you actually have a sub in your room?
I think after a while, maybe it's like just fatigue or something, or you get used to it. But then it starts to melt into maybe one thing that is, well, not as the PA system, but kind of similar. But maybe they will work on it on a better system. I think they're working on now on a Sub Pack, the third iteration, and that is also really focused on production as well. They have like a real sound card or something that syncs up wirelessly as well and reduce latency. So it might get there in the future. It might be something targeted towards also like home producers like me or like us that can afford to have like bigger speakers.
Yeah, I actually do have something like it, and it's called a butt kicker. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh yeah,
Sounds kinky.
yeah. It's for the drum players.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Dobry knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like well, actually, it's for music the musicians version. There is like a version which is tailored towards gamers. They have it basically is a unit that you can screw under a seat or the stool that you're sitting on when you're drumming. But gamers have found out that it's really sort of amazing to get like your 5.1 sub represented by this thing, because then your whole couch shakes when you get shot and shit like that. But anyway, I found it. And I find it really, really accurate, to be honest. It's so I screwed it under one of the seats here, and basically there is an amp which is made for it, which has you can tweak it, so you have of course you have level, but you also have a cutoff, so where the crossover point where the thing becomes active and basically leaves out the rest. And if you use it very, very mild, it actually tricks your brain in a few seconds, So it's not like the feeling I had with the Sub Pack, where I thought both were still disconnected. But this one actually completely fuses with the sound that is coming from the speakers. And also, if you test it with actual notes, it's very true to pitch. So it's not only just making rumble and giving you some kick in the butt, but it's an actual subwoofer, but it's just silent, And it vibrates your seat. It's really, really cool. I would actually recommend that if you're in an apartment where you can't make noise, or if you want to stay up late and don't want to wake up your housemates and stuff like that, or your family, this might actually be a solution, because that and headphones is giving you a pretty intense sonic experience.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. Butt kicker. I don't know if they still make them, but they've been around for ages.
All right.
Yeah. Have you tried that, Dobry? Butt kicker?
No,
Any of your
only
band members?
No, we didn't get our butts kicked. No, we actually, I actually read about it a few years ago that drummers use it for concerts.
Yeah.
because in those like on big stages and stuff like that, when you have huge sound systems, the problem is to make a nice monitoring for the drummer that's isolated from the rest of the world on the big stage. So they basically invented this so that the monitoring engineers didn't have to put sub-bass elements into the monitoring system for the drummers,
Yeah,
so you don't have the cross.
This is the amp.
Ooh, nice, nice. It's serious.
Yeah, so
stuff,
basically
yeah.
it just takes audio, and it's actually a 1,000 watt amp. It's a really strong system.
Wow.
It's actually if you I only have it on like the most conservative setting, you know, because if you open up the amp, it's actually really violent. It's like your whole chair goes like. You know?
Yeah, most of those rock musicians and drummers are pretty wild. They want to feel the sound thumping in their chests, you know, and their legs and stuff. So I guess lots of people crank it up.
Yeah. How does it sound how does the seat sound when the butt kicker rumbles? Yeah, well, the seat, I tried it on the different seats, and I found one that isn't actually resonating with the sound of the butt kicker. So the chair doesn't make any sound, or the seat doesn't make the sound. It's just the vibration, basically. And if it's, again, you know, I use it I try to use it as if it's, you know, it basically sounds like a sub, you know. So and the sub is never, unless you're in a club and you stick your head into the bass bin, you know, you never get actually vibrated by studio speakers, you know. You don't get that violence or that actual physical rumble. So yeah, if you blend it in just right, it's a really great aid to see what's going on in the lower octaves, for sure. And it gives you the energy. I guess Chaiya gets it to get that sort of feel of being listening to a big sound system. Do you wear it on public transport as well?
I used to. I actually not on public transport, because I think you can still hear it faintly, and I think people will just like turn around like, where's this like bass coming from? It feels like, you know, standing outside the club. You have a little boom 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 stuff going on, and I had it for a while when I was biking through Amsterdam, but there was kind of a dangerous endeavor, I figured, because I don't hear the traffic at all then, so I just stopped using that and just do it at home.
That's funny. So what do you listen on? Is it, you said you have headphones? Do you actually also have some studio speakers?
I have just my headphones, and the studio speakers I used are ones I bought 10 years ago for like a multi-purpose DJing and monitoring thing. These are these Pioneer DGM. No, what was that called? I think we talked about this before. Like they're a little bit.
I think I know which one. Yeah,
like, they're just pretty basic, but they're also active speakers, and they have like a function to turn off all the EQ to be as accurate as possible. But I think in the end it's still a little bit colored. But I use those thins, and it's okay. So for what I'm doing, considering upgrading once I found kind of a studio environment that I really want to commit into building something. But till then, just try to keep it basic and simple and agile as possible.
Yeah. What about you, Ranjit? What is your listening situation?
I've got some Atom A7X monitors.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, they're so nice. I love just listening to music on them is so nice. I love getting things like music that I'm really familiar with, that I've known for 20 years, and listening to it on them. I always hear something new that I haven't heard before. But because the ribbon tweeters, they're so warm and soft that I often will try and put harshness into things that I'm making, and then listen to it somewhere else. Like, whoa, it's really harsh, because you just kind of can't hear it on them, which I've sort of gotten better at taking into account for now. But yeah, they're great because you just never feel tired. It's easy to listen to them for a long time and sound really nice. And I've got a 8-inch Atom 8-inch sub that I've got with them too, that I recently turned down a bit. I realised I had it up too. I realised I had to be the grown up and turn it down a bit, because even though it might sound nice, it wasn't really putting it down a bit was actually really helpful for getting more accuracy and clarity in what I was doing. But my rooms. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That was I was asking. What about your room? Can you actually blast them, or can you listen to them at a decent volume? Or
Yeah, no, I can. Vibration's definitely a bit of an issue. There's certain sort of resonant frequencies that my room doesn't like, the walls and cupboards and things like that. So I've got headphones that I use for like if there's a few elements going, you can't really hear that, and it doesn't really bother me. But if I want to sort of really fine tune the kick in the bass or something like that, I have to put the headphones on to get a sense of that. But I've just got a studio building at our house that we moved in. I was going to turn into a studio, and things sort of happened, and I haven't. And then last year, a tree fell down in a storm and crushed the studio, which was it was a bit scary. I live out in the mountains. There's lots of trees and wind and stuff, and so that got destroyed. But just got finished getting rebuilt, and through insurance, and then I've commissioned a guy to come in and build it into a proper studio. It's going to be soundproofed and isolated, and it's going to be pretty incredible. Really excited about that.
that sounds amazing, man.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, look at you. You didn't have your studio there when it happened.
Absolutely. Because I don't think in that day I was working in my studio inside the house, and I don't think I would have taken the wind seriously enough to not be out there. So I was really, really lucky I wasn't out there.
I had a similar scare before I found this location. I nearly signed a contract for another basement somewhere else in the city, and went there a few times and make pictures, started measuring stuff up and everything. I was nearly there, and then just before I signed, something cracked. Some pipes cracked in the neighborhood, and it flooded, and there was like 2 meters of water there. So that would have destroyed everything, just absolutely everything.
Wow.
So that's the first thing I checked for this space. Has there ever been a problem with flooding? And there wasn't. So anyway, those are scary things, man. It's the downside of being in a basement, that it can flood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you say yes. That sounds like you have experience. Dobry?
We are right now in a basement of a residential building in Belgrade that was built in 1937, and the plumbing was probably changed the last time back in the 50s. So the water pipes are bursting almost every year. So it's a constant possibility of getting flooded. Last year I had a big issue with moisture. It turns out that it was the rain sewage system that was broken, and it flooded a bit. So basically now I have a ruined hallway outside of this room, but the room is totally okay.
Okay.
So it's always it's quite risky, because here in Serbia we don't have a really good public services. The companies that take care of the stuff that we pay for are not that really good. They're on the edge of just disappearing or falling apart. So yes, that is a problem here. Well, let's say the lucky thing is that this one is only digged into the ground. Let's say for 1 meter or 1.5 meters. So basically, if it gets flooded and I'm in the studio, I could basically just sit on the window, and survive. Yeah.
You could still get all your stuff high enough up to not destroy.
I would probably be like those poor people in the floods, sitting on their roofs, holding their cats and children. I would be holding TBO3 and my modules, I'd be like, help, get me out. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I guess we can laugh about it now, but it would be an absolute disaster. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. It would be, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Everything has its pros and cons. So those are the bad. That is the bad stuff that can happen in the basement. The good stuff here is that my only neighbors, because it's a residential building, my only neighbors are right above me, because this building is like this basement is dig into the side of the hill, you know. So I'm basically like when you enter the building, you enter it uphill and then you go 2 stories down, like 2 levels down, and you're here. So the only neighbors are right above me, and there are some nice young people that really don't mind loud music until like 10 or 11 in the evening, you know. So I'm cool.
Okay.
I can blast my speakers during the day.
Nice.
In the evening, yeah.
And what are you listening on? Because I remember we recently discussed it, and you were about to get some new ones or some other ones, right?
Yes, I was thinking of currently I'm using Yamaha's Yamaha NS1000. It's a huge hi-fi monitor. 3-way
Yeah, you showed
monitor
me
system.
last time. They look amazing.
Yeah,
They're from
and
the 80s or 70s even, right?
Something like around.
Yeah.
1980.
Yeah.
So these boxes are probably at least 35 years old. They are working quite well, but they are getting tired, really tired. I changed the tweeters on both of the boxes in the past, let's say, 5 years, and they are really hard to find, those tweeters, because the company Yamo or Jamo, however you pronounce it, they don't make them anymore. And there are some like special titanium tweeters, you know, some unobtainium stuff. So yeah, basically, so it's really difficult to find, and they're not really that expensive when you look at it, how hard they are to find, because there's only like on eBay and Amazon, there's only one guy in the world, and he's in the United States, that can fix the broken tweeters, you know. So they're like, when you bump into them, they're something around $250 and American dollars and up, and that's how much it costs for you to send them to this guy in States to fix them. So basically, I started thinking about what will I started planning for the day after the loudspeakers break down, because I really love them. They are main monitors here in this room. This room is around 25 square meters, so, and they're in the corners, on the other side, of course, from the one you see, and they really make a nice sound, and I have a nice sweet spot here in the middle, so I'm really happy with them. Yeah, thank you. I agree. And before that, I used the NS10s, of course, for 7 or 8 years, and then in 2014 I bought these boxes, and since then my NS10s just are shelved. You know, they're just.
So you don't use them
aside.
as a second opinion type setup?
No, actually, I was planning on doing that, but at some point I decided not to. You know,
Okay.
maybe I'm a bit spoiled, but I'm like, no, I'm going to stick to the main monitors. And while I was making different positions of the gear, because I also have I have a table with turntables and a mixing desk behind my music hardware setup. So I was like, there's no place for NS10s now, so I just keep them.
You can sell them to Cedric.
So I just keep them as a pair of speakers in case one of the boxes, one of the NS1000 breaks down, so I can just pull them out and use them until I fix the main.
But do you have a way, or do you have a practice of switching to another pair, or maybe a pair of headphones to sort of double check how it translates? Or are you really relying 100% on those Yamahas?
Not 100, but 95%, maybe 99% on Yamahas, and I use these. These are Pioneer. I forgot the model. Just a second. I think it's something like DJ 1500 or something like that.
Right.
I bought them a few years ago. Before that, I was using the Sony MDR V700, those silver DJ headphones.
Right.
I really like high quality. I mean, quality DJ headphones for monitoring sometimes. But I have to admit, I never learned how to mix on headphones. really. I guess it's because I didn't spend enough time working on headphones, and I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Basically, but really, honestly, I don't know how to mix on headphones.
So what are you running into? What is the problem mixing on headphones? I'm not saying it's easy, right? But it is possible, I guess.
Yes, yeah, no, I think it's a personal issue. I think it's a problem because I don't know. I tend to make mixes with too soft bass. My bass in the mixes is too soft, and somehow I tend to move stuff like into the. I add more reverb and stuff like that because I'm obviously trying to compensate. The lack of the room.
Sure, because that's exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, if you have a especially closed pair of headphones. But it's true for all headphones. You know, there's no acoustics. It's just pure sound. You know, like the signal of whatever is coming out of your gear or your computer or your sound card is blasted in your ears, and that's what it is. And in any room, you know, only the totally absolute treated acoustically engineered rooms are sort of dead, or they have no tails in any part of the spectrum, but any other room does, you know. So you know, sounds get like an extra decay in a way if you play something in a room, you know. You get like a little bit of a tail on transients of everything, and in certain regions it's more than in other regions. But you don't get that at all in on headphones. So you tend to use more reverb, or to put like the stuff which has short transients, or what like short percussive sounds, like you know, congas or rim shots and stuff like that. You tend to put them way too loud in the mix because you don't get the tail, you know, like the acoustic tail. So you can make mistakes like that, but it's once you know what to listen for. You should be fine, you know, and you can always double check it on the speaker, you know, just as plan B. I mean, checking things is always a good idea, you know, switching between different systems. Can we get an impulse response from the Stoor bunker? Yeah, why not, man? Yeah, that's a good idea just record this room. Yeah, why not?
Nice.
Maybe. I was, you know, it's gonna be ugly. I can tell you that, you know. It's there's a too much of a tail. I haven't actually never measured it, but it's I would guess it's like between 500 and 200 hertz or something. Like low mids, there's a bit of a resonance, but other than that, like the highs and the mids, they're all very direct and very clear. But there's a lot of hippie treatment, as I call it, like soundproofing that is just made by hand, you know, like stuff put together, and the bass traps. There's lots of acoustic treatment on the ceilings. There's a lot of it, but the only thing you can't get rid of, because it's just a long concrete bunker basically, is that last sort of tail in the low mids. But yeah, we can sample it, so you can have your own Stoor artifact sound.
Nice.
Why not? Yeah, maybe a good idea. Let's see what else, guys. Anything you want to bring up?
I just wanted to say something about headphones. I have to say,
Sure.
I found mixing in headphones, like I sort of would do it, and because like trying to compensate for the inaccuracies in my room, but I was using Sennheiser HD25, like my DJ headphones that I've always used. But then I got these Beyerdynamic, I don't know, T880s, or I think that's the one they are, but open back headphones, and I had never really used open back headphones. I'd heard of them, and I sort of had a general understanding of what they were, but getting them has really made headphone mixing so much easier, because you get a bit of a sense of space. It's not the same as being in a room, but having the difference between there's this bit of a sense of space that really helps with placement and stereo field and levels and things. And it's made the headphone mixing experience a lot better switching to open back headphones.
Okay, cool. And I see our friend Stefan Splitradix is interested in any acoustic treatments in your studios. So Ranjit, why don't we stay with you and tell us what have you done anything except for apart from the records, the vinyl bass traps?
No, I actually, my cousin a few years ago he built a home theater setup and got this completely covered his whole giant theater room in this really dense acoustic foam stuff that's like stop a bullet. It's so dense. But then he moved overseas and pulled the whole room apart and said, "Here, I'm going to throw this out. Do you want this?" So he gave me a whole bunch of pieces of it that I've sort of positioned around the room in a pretty general sense, but sort of, trying to catch reflective points that I can. Nothing on the roof though. So the room's actually it's relatively dead, which is kind of nice. It's more that the bass is the problem because it catches on lots of things in terms of vibration and sort of gets some build up happening. But it's it's not perfect, but I've kind of gotten used to it now over a few years and sort of know where the problems are and what to listen out for.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's. I guess you have to get lucky with the room as well. I mean, you can. Some rooms are just impossible to ever get sounding good, and other rooms are just easy to treat. So yeah, there's no. I mean, there is a science behind it, but you never know until you actually invite somebody who understands this science. It's a deep science, man.
Definitely.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And expensive to fix problems. Yeah. So is that black panel behind you one of the things you talked about? Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I've got one sort of on the roughly where the main reflection points on the sides are.
Nice.
Right. What about you, Dobry? Is the stuff that on the ceiling there, is that part of acoustic treatment thing?
Yes.
Or is that
yes.
Okay. What did you do? Did you build it yourself?
Yeah, actually, my father and I built it over the course of 5 days. It was some sort of
nice.
father and son bonding thing. I mean, usually the workers put it, on in one afternoon, but we were like, okay, let's do it slowly,
Yeah.
Let's drink some beer, let's drink some rakia, and work. So it took us 5 days. We actually succeeded. It's AMF, the company AMF. I think it's part of that Knauf big consortium. It's the acoustical ceiling. It's like 20 centimeters, as you can see, from the main ceiling. But I could give you a short tour. Sorry.
Oh, yes, please, tour.
Tour, yeah. So as you can see, that's a gap up there. I didn't, first I thought I should cover it with something, but then I was like, no problem. The thing is here is that, sorry, let me see it first. The thing with this room is that when I bought this place, we just scraped everything off the walls, off the ceiling, everything completely. And then my professor of acoustics was kind enough to come and tell me what I should do. It's like he told me what to do with room acoustics.
It's good to have somebody like that in your
and actually he's an amazing guy. He's a legend, here, and he's like a famous acoustics engineer around Europe. He has been consulted, to build some concert halls and opera halls all the way from Serbia to Sweden. And
nice.
But he's a really nice, down-to-earth guy. You would never say that he's such a big player, And so he told me that I should, because of the soundproofing, sound isolation, that I should build a room inside the room. So this is the room inside the room, built out of the plaster cardboard, the material. Like in German, I think it's Gipskarton or something like that. So it's plaster and cardboard walls, and the ceiling is suspended. It hangs off the original higher ceiling. So this is a room inside the room. So lots of the bass and lots of the sound pressure doesn't escape the room and doesn't bother the neighbors, but it basically only works downwards until 55 hertz. So everything lower than that goes out, so that's the reason around 9 p.m. I turn off the subwoofer. Yeah, I didn't mention that I have a small I mean, it's not small, it's a huge car stereo subwoofer that I just put in, and tuned it by the ear, so it's not part of the project. So I have this inside room, and basically that's the ceiling. It works fantastically. When I built that ceiling, it really changed to better the sound of the room. But the important thing here is, okay, this is the other part of the. Wait, let me see.
That's the part we want to see. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wait. Sorry, I'm confused. This is not mirrored. So,
Yeah.
okay, that's the. I have this construction that I'm hanging the loudspeakers from. They're on chains.
Oh,
It
cool.
can rattle a bit. I mean, it can, but it's okay. But the main thing is that I have this huge bookshelf. That's important. And because I have, my mother was an art historian, so she had a bunch of books. So I took them, most of them, like several hundred books, and put them inside the studio. And there's a smaller stuff. There's Yoya.
Hey, yo.
There's Yoya, and there's another bookshelf. So basically, this lowered ceiling and the bookshelves really made a difference, and
Yeah.
the studio now sounds very nice and comfortable. At first, when we built the studio, I put the wooden floors inside, but after a few months. They were destroyed. They started bubbling up because of the moisture. Yeah, speakers hanging from chains. It looks good and it sounds okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So now.
Yeah,
it's
your room,
just
room looks really nice, man. Looks really like a very
Thanks.
comfortable place to work and
Yeah.
to get
Yeah,
inspired. Yeah.
It was quite important for me to have a place that is. It was more important for me to get a place that was comfortable than to have everything like perfectly set up.
Yeah, I
So,
totally
yeah.
agree. I mean, I'm totally the same with that. It's
Great.
when I walk into my room, I just want to feel like I want to be there. I just want to have the feeling I want to spend time there and be motivated to start doing some music. And I don't like studios which are too formal and too much designed. And they feel like, they feel much more like temporary spaces, like you just want to be there for that one thing and you just don't want to be there because it's just not a nice place to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It must feel like your second living room or something, your second house,
Yes. Yeah.
For my personal taste, for my personal creativity, that's important. A place where you just want to hang out. You want to just want to be there, right? Yeah. Thanks for the tour, man. Looks like
You're
a really
welcome.
nice room. What about you, Chaiya? Did you do any acoustic treatment, or are you just relying on because you moved?
Yeah, I'm still in
Yeah.
the process, and
Yeah.
I'm probably also the most amateurish here from us guys, and the least audiophile from us. So I'm just getting my ears and head around this, and I have a lot of things to learn from you guys. And living in Amsterdam, everything is small. The closest thing that came to soundproofing my room was basically having my bed and my speakers, having my desk and my speakers under my bunk bed. So that was the closest thing that worked. But I really want to also like try to set up a nice room. But having the advantage of like using a lot my headphones. Gives me, as you said, like this coziness of I can just like sit down and do it anywhere. I don't have to be tied into a spot when I travel, go back home to Germany or so. I can just do music on the fly, and for me, it's super important to have this continuity, this creative process still going, because I feel like I'm also in a stage where I'm wanting to prove my technique more, and like the nitty-gritty sounds, as important as it is. I think I need to get my routine in first to push out tracks like on a daily basis almost, just to I try it's not happening. It's not
German
happening.
efficiency.
It's really not happening, but just getting into the habit of doing something, because like I started off with just like starting a loop, but never finishing. I think a lot of people can relate to this issue, and maybe it also has to do with trying not to be too perfect. So in a sense, not having a perfect studio setup is for me kind of a mental hack, maybe of saying, maybe it sounds less perfect, maybe some balancing is weird, but at least I produce and produce and produce. I try to get into that. But the next step is definitely like pulling a room like raum.null, because that looks fantastic, and I think that really gets also the creative juices flowing on top. So I'm definitely going to hit you up with some questions about the room setting.
Please do. The secret ingredient is procrastination, because I've built this over the years,
Yeah.
Really, it's like I entered this space back in 2013, and it only settled down like last year. So it was a long process. Yeah.
What did you learn from our guest, Jochem? Actually, yeah, I mean, I do pick up things from you guys for sure in the classes, like how to be more organized in my in my arrangements and stuff like that. I'm a bit lazy by nature, so I just want to. My mind tends to drift to the things that I want to do and not to the things that I have to do. So, so if it's about being, I'm very organized in filing things, So I'm archiving everything like very, very accurately. But as it comes to my working environment, it works for me because I know where everything is. Like this whole room is, I know where everything is, literally, like every cable, every plug, everything. But it might look like a slightly messy to another person. It's not like totally tidy, if you know what I mean. It's not a mess, but it's a bit chaotic, And that's true for my arrangements or my working spaces in the computer as well. But once I finish something, I'm very, very tight with archiving and numbering things and naming things and put them in the right places. So I never lose anything. And my desktop is pretty much just empty, like it's all. So yeah. Anyway, but maybe I should pick up from you guys a bit more, like being also more tidy in my arrangements. I don't know. But no, but it's true for everybody you talk to. All these talks, all these masterclasses, all the collaborations I do, I learn stuff from everybody. It's like I'm really blessed that I'm able to talk to so many different minds and to hang out with such a varied crowd of musicians and people. So I'm thankful to be in this place.
I have a need to tell you let's say, short anecdote.
Go for it.
And it goes back 25 years from now, in the past. And back in '96, the Serbian, let's say, techno scene and electronic scene was just picking up, from '94, '95. And in '95, we had first international raves. For all the people that don't know, and you shouldn't know, '90s were awful in Yugoslavia. Back then, Serbia was part of Yugoslavia. There was wars, UN sanctions, everything that goes with that. But there was a huge number of young people, mainly students, that were into techno music and electronic music. So there was, for a short period, in '96, there was this magazine that had subjects about clubbing and techno. And I think in one of the first issues of this magazine, there was an interview with Speedy J. And it was an interview that was picked up from some European magazine, because we weren't in the system, so you could just steal stuff and pirate it.
Oh, wicked. A bootleg interview.
Yeah, bootleg interview, actually. So some guy or a girl, I don't remember, really did a nice job, of compiling a few interviews and combining with your work, because already then you were a legend here in Serbia. All the people from the early scene, like, of course, like Jeff Mills, Sven Fate, but from the Europe, there was like CJ Bolland, he was highly popular, Joy Beltram, and of course, among the others, Speedy J, So the interview started something like, don't get don't get caught by this guy's modesty. He's a huge perfectionist, you know, and he talks so modestly about stuff that is very, very difficult to achieve, you know, and that's something that stayed in my mind. I tried finding that magazine because I have it somewhere, but I think it's in another town outside of Belgrade at my grandmother's place. So
is it in Serbian? Though.
Yes, it's in Serbian,
okay,
but
okay.
No problem. I'll take photos and I can translate.
Nice.
The
Yeah,
parts.
I would love to see that. That's cool. A bootleg interview. Nice one.
Yeah. Yeah, so we know from back then that you're most of the time just being modest, you know.
Well, I mean, you know, the thing is, I don't think it's, you know, how do I explain this? I'm just fucking around, you know, and yeah, that's what I'm just messing around, and that at some point I get something that I like, and most of the time it's a compromise, you know. I'm really not that much of a perfectionist, to be honest. I would say I'm more of a impressionist.
Exactly.
No.
Continue to be modest.
No. Seriously, I know. Well, if there's one thing I know where I am. I know where I am in the game. You know, I'm very, you know, I'm very insensitive to critique or to what people say about my music, because I know. Where it is, how I should value it, you know, and I know it's sometimes I nail it, you know. Once every few years there's something that is, you know, everything comes together, all the experience, and you do something and it comes out flawlessly, you know.
Yeah.
But all the other times it's basically just messing around, really, and you know, with varied results. But I'm not a perfectionist. I just get it out of the way very quickly and move on to the next thing. So I don't spend too much time perfecting things. I'm way more impressionist. Like I just put it down, shit it out, and that's it. You know, take it or leave it. You know, move on.
Yeah.
And you know, maybe complex sound can be mistaken for things that take a lot of time to accomplish. But it's usually whatever I do is done very quickly. It's more the setup in advance and the thinking in advance that is making it possible to do complex things, but it's the a kid at heart. Yeah, exactly. I'm just playing around. Yeah, I'm just having fun. You know, that's basically what I do. That's the secret, if there is a secret. But yeah, so even the things that sound complex or sound, you know, sort of more layered or whatever, it's just because I set it up to be like that. You know, and the actual thing came together usually very, very quickly. I never spend more than a day on a track or on a piece of music or even an EP. I can do 3 EPs in a day. You know, last one on Stoor. Wow. Last one on Stoor was one session I did with Charlton, and it was all recorded in one day, and it's 3 EPs. And we cut down the amount of tracks from 36 to 18 for that even. So,
All right.
So it sounds really complex, but it all came together just playing around. You know. Anyway, so.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but from our side, it's really not that, let's say, easy to let's say comprehend, to understand that it works that way. Because, for example, when we watch and listen to this last 9-hour jam session, it's so well mixed, you know. Rodhad sitting in his studio, you standing in your studio, and the sound is amazing. It's like, I understand that most of the time not all the 9 people are playing like into the sound, but it's so
some
rich
moments
and
some moments they are though. Yeah,
and it works amazingly, you know, those layers, everything that is put up.
Well, I must
really
say,
like,
I must give a compliment to everybody who was involved in that night, because everybody just did an amazing job, and, you know, not doing too much, waiting their turns, you know, and just really be really responsible with levels, you know. I mean, when we started, even though we were connected with another studio, who were, you know, like 800 kilometers away from here, you could definitely feel some kind of tension that we were doing something, you know, very challenging. And so everybody from the beginning was very cautious. Let's not fuck this up, you know. Let's not just mess around and let's make sure that this all works together. Yeah, Robin was there too. Yeah, some moments we were all playing together, all 9 of us. But yeah, and I think in both studios there is a pretty good monitoring system, like not club sound, but loud enough so you can actually feel the music. So it's easier if you are sort of immersed in the sound, you know, to keep an eye on what you're doing. You know, every little detail is audible for everybody, you know, and it's true for Rodhead Studio as well as for this place. And that helps, you know. If you have trouble actually making out what's going on, then you get in the danger zone. But if you have very accurate representation of what's going on, it's easier to be, you know, more modest with your sound.
Yeah.
So it's the listening environment is probably a big help for why it sounds the way it sounds, and the professionalism of the people involved, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And not be egoistic, you know, just blend in and do nothing until you you grab your moment, you know. And it's making music like this with 9 people is like working with 9 snipers, you know. They all sit around and wait for the moment, and then pull the trigger when they really think now it's going to make a difference, you know.
Nice.
Wow, we're all almost talking for 2 hours. I mean, usually in the end we give everybody a chance to point the audience to what they're doing. So unless maybe we should move into that section, unless there's something you want to bring up or discuss or ask each other. I don't know.
I'm alright, I think.
Okay, maybe some last thing from people watching this on Twitch. Any comments? Anything? Questions? Yeah, just shoot. Otherwise, who wants to start? Chaiya, maybe. We just go from left to right, from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Is there a place where people can find what you're doing? And are you comfortable sharing it in the first place? So
Yeah, well, as part of this masterclass is also to defeat my shyness and just get out and have people listen to what I do, because in the end, when I do my thing, like, you're afraid to be vulnerable. Yeah, you're kind of vulnerable because you show who you are with the music or what you do, and also the mistakes you do, because nobody likes to, you know, show production that is not as good. But I guess I see it as a part of the learning process, so I'd be happy for any feedback. Right now I'm uploading every track that we do here on my SoundCloud. I think Sander will post it somewhere. It's SoundCloud/Chaiya-music. And also post like a little snippet of that track on my Instagram, which is /Chaiya.music. So any feedback on those tracks would be great. It's a learning experience for me, and as I said, like the more feedback and the more I hear from you guys, the better. And the less I'll be shy with my stuff. And
nice that you're asking the community for feedback. That's a really nice idea. Actually, we're going to do a stream in the near future here on Twitch. Where people can post their stuff on the Discord server, and we'll get some people together and to brutally honestly, review whatever is uploaded there.
Yeah, yes, please. As I said, we're in the start of this journey, and as I said, like the amateurish, and my ears has to still develop and everything. Relying on people with better ears is a great start for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna call the stream brutally honest, so people know what they're in for.
It's a trick, people. It's a trick, people. He's brutally honest. He really chooses his words very, and he's really precise, you know, and really gives you a morale boost.
What happened to humble Joachim? What happened?
No, I mean, Yeah, I mean, you guys know that every time you play me something, I really go by my intuition and just say whatever comes up in my mind, without trying to be save your precious egos or whatever. I'm just saying what it is, right? And I try to compliment as well, but I mean, you're here to learn what's wrong with your stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, I might as well talk about it, right?
Yeah. And hopefully, and after 12 tracks, after 1 year or so, if this goes on so long, hopefully not because of COVID, having like a mix of 1 hour, mixing all tracks together, and hopefully seeing the progression.
You were gonna compile everything. Yeah.
It would be great. Yeah. So maybe see some variation in the style or some improvement of the learning curve. That would be great.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll encourage people, check it out. I think it's in the comments now, right? By now or not?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Probably is.
Yes, it's Chaiya-music or Chaiya.music. Depends on which platform.
Cool.
Nice. Thanks, Chaiya. Moving on to Dobry.
Yep. You can check the stuff I do with my crew, with my people here on our Bandcamp page. It's belgradedubs.bandcamp.com. It was first the vinyl-only label run by Chris and myself. We only published 2 vinyls of raum.null back in 2014 and 15, and then we made a huge break to, let's say, resettle, and now we started throwing out new music again. So you can basically, that album of Girls Next Gulag, The Best of Opium House, Volume 1, all of those tracks.
both the band name and the title are fucking legendary.
Yeah, thanks. We just come up with those like during lengthy sessions here in studio. Yeah, but it has a deeper meaning for us, but it doesn't have to be serious, we just try to avoid being too serious with ourselves and getting to thinking of ourselves too seriously. So basically all the tracks from that album were let's say tightened up during the master classes with Speedy, so it was a really great experience. So you can listen to those tracks. You can actually find some demos of some of those tracks on SoundCloud, on raum.null's sound, or actually there's a Girls Next Gulag SoundCloud too. So if you want to compare some of the tracks to hear how they listened before the master class and before the mastering, of course. And that's it. You can follow the Belgrade Dubs Bandcamp page, because in the next few months we will be putting out some new Girls Next Gulag releases and some new techno releases also. And we really got encouraged by this first release, so we are really seriously thinking about releasing a vinyl or a double LP by the end of this year. So we'll talk about that in the masterclass, of course. But yeah,
it is definitely the type of music you want on vinyl. Yeah, absolutely. No, seriously. I mean, it's a total unique listening experience, and the Serbian Massive Attack. Yeah, I mean, there is so much more in there than just a Massive Attack type feel, but it's dark, drony, and dragging. Tempos are fairly slow most of the time, so. But it's dubby and it's spacey. It's a lot of things. It's a massive, crazy fusion of many things. So, I'll so people check it out. It's a really cool project. Ranjit.
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, I guess I've got a SoundCloud account, which is my name. And there's links to releases that I've got on a couple of different labels. That's all sort of condensed there. I guess the SoundCloud's mostly full of DJ sets and podcasts and stuff, but all the things I've released are there as well in the little clip format that they have from labels.
Cool. Yeah. Well, that was fun, guys. Hanging out like this. Having a night at the pub, kind of, instead of being focused and on work and getting your music improved and stuff. I really enjoy working with you guys. I must say that. If there's anybody now watching this or listening to this who wonders how it actually is, it's a bit like this, but more, sort of revolving around a subject. So we basically attack one problem or discuss one track and really get in depth and try to improve it, and we all learn from each other. So it's a really nice experience. So thanks, guys. Thanks for signing up, and thanks for being here tonight.
No problem.
Thanks for having us.
To everybody who was watching on Twitch. Have a look at our Patreon page, where you can actually sign up for masterclasses and all other kinds of goodies. And if you haven't already, check out the Discord server. It's where all the nerds hang out, talking about the stuff we talk about in this chat, but in real time with I think about 1,200 people in the meantime, something like this. It's a nice place. Lots of nerds, which is great. So so thanks to everybody. Have a good evening. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you, chat.
Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.
Bye bye.